We are back. This time it's for a Monday night away fixture. It's Norwich versus Coventry. A huge win for Coventry in a tightly contested game versus Millwall, where Coventry came away 2-1 winners. Some momentary lapses led to it feeling a touch nervy, but overall Coventry were good value for money. A bright show from Esse against his former club, and again another match winner for Hadji. The win keeps the chasing pack at bay, and right now every game is crucial at this stage of the season. Norwich, now they're sat in 20th and have only recently dragged themselves out of the relegation zone. However, they're certainly not playing that way. They've got 3 wins in the last 5, which makes them one of the most informed teams in the league. Their 5-0 dismantling of West Brom should put fear in any team in the Championship. Philippe Clement has his team firing and the squad is packed with quality. There is, however, some drama behind the scenes, with highly rated Sargent being exiled from the squad. That should cause concern. However, Makama has stepped up and sits at their top scorer with 10 goals so far this season. Now, Coventry hosted Norwich at the start of the season, which finished in a 1-1 draw in possibly the most frustrating game I've watched this season. A dominant Coventry simply could not finish their chances and required a last-minute goal to just secure the point. So, how can we expect Norwich to play moving forward? Well, under Philippe Clement, they've been opting for a 4-2-3-1 system, switching from that back 5 they played at the start. Over the last few games, they've seen Sargent omitted from the squad, as we mentioned, with Makama leading that Norwich line. Ali Ahmed has certainly made himself a threat since joining at the start of the month, with 2 goal contributions in 2 appearances already. Taking a look at their average position from their last game, we can see first off just how narrow Norwich are on the ball. Defensive line height is deep, and this was the game they won 5-0, where it's a touch more advanced than usual. We can see 6 of their outfield players being in their own half, then they have the 2 wingers and forward players in more attacking positions. During their Wrexham game, they were deeper still, with 7 players in their own half. In contrast, for Coventry, in the Millwall game, we can see the average positions, just how advanced that defence is, with 3 or 4 players in our own half. We'll touch more on that can mean later. Back to Norwich. Pass map wise, in their last game, much of their play came from deeper positions, particularly in this section here, where we saw the deeper players within that midfield to create that dominance and retain the ball to open avenues. Now, looking at this, you may think it was a tight game with no goals, particularly in this section here, but it actually ended 5-0 to Norwich. Now, some of that does come from poor defending from West Brom, but there's certainly a threat moving forward for Norwich. Filtering in the unsuccessful passes, you can see that they mainly come from deeper positions, such as clearances and also crosses into the box. They actually put some of the fewest crosses per 90 in the league, so it's not normally a go-to avenue for them, albeit they have an absolute giant 6'5" Makama to make it a handful. So how can we expect them to play? Well, defensively, we saw that they're happier to sit in deeper positions, with the double pivot in midfield working closely with the back 4 to ensure space is hard to find. As opposition teams have the ball in deeper areas, the press is led by Makama, and the midfields behind will coordinate and remain disciplined. It's more focused on pressing signals over constant pressing intensity. The front line will remain narrow and compact, giving them player dominance in the middle. However, it can be bypassed with width. As the ball has progressed, Norwich will form a deeper block and a very narrow one. This makes the ball incredibly difficult to play through those central areas, forcing opposition wide. And as the ball is played wide, the team will shift over, remaining compact and narrow in shape, giving them again that extra player to make life difficult for the opposing team. Even as the ball progresses to wider, more forward areas, wingbacks will stay narrow, with wingers expected to track back and cover areas with more width. The concept here is to crowd out the play, win the ball back, and have the extra player in midfield to give an advantage moving forward. Teams that play with width and lose the ball now have an even harder job keeping up. Defensively, they're certainly not been great this season. Granted, a lot of that issues came from earlier in the season, but they're still sat in 19th in goals conceded per match and XG conceded in 22nd. Even with a refreshed look, I'm still expecting Coventry to get chances. Now, with the ball, Norwich will use their compact nature in turnovers to start their attack, often with that man advantage. Makama will often act as a holding player, with the supporting 3 working within close proximity for knockdowns and also runs through behind. Knockdowns can also be picked up and look for balls in behind for Makama to run onto. Build-up wise, it'll often start at the back with a defence in deeper areas and played around until angles open up. They'll typically look for more central passes to involve their forwards, but will also play with more width to find ball and space. Norwich have a ton of quality, in particular across that front 3. Clever flicks, cuts inside and good skill can make it challenging to deal with. They don't typically go wide and drive to get the ball into the box, but instead are looking to be more direct with the ball. We'll quickly look at Norwich's results in a touch more detail, as there's a touch more to the story. 5-0 at West Brom. You may thinking they run away with it, this super attacking team, but they're more of an opportunist team. In that game, they only had 1.08 XG, 0.24 XG versus Wrexham, and and 0.54 versus Stoke. And I think the thing to highlight here is they aren't creating as many clear-cut chances in terms of XG, but in recent games they're certainly banging the goals in. It's the sort of team you could be feeling in complete control and find yourself a goal down after one quick break. Now, on to Coventry. Out last, we continued with our classic 4-2-3-1 formation. Ette and Mason Clark both look good on either wing, and we have options on the bench which came on to give us that fresh look after the game fell flat. A good result, and we'll need it to continue versus Norwich. Moving into that game, we've got options, and I think we may see some changes. Thomas clears his suspension and will likely come straight back into the starting 11, albeit Latty has filled in well. I'd imagine Torp will come back into that starting 11 as well, however, I'm not all certain it replaces Eccles. I think in recent games, Rodoni hasn't quite been up to his usual standard. He looks closer to match fitness each time he comes out, however, it does pose the question if he'll start out versus Norwich. Again, Thomas Asante may not be fit enough to start, but again, we still have those options. Eccles can play further forward, Ette can fill in there with Sakamoto on the right wing. It's a nice problem to have. With the ball, I'm expecting Coventry to play with a lot of width and look to shift the ball around with plenty of switches of play. This is an area that could really hurt Norwich, playing in that more narrow approach. It's going to be a way for us to find space and create those opportunities. With Norwich playing that deeper defensive structure, I'm expecting central areas difficult to play through with Coventry opting for progression down those wings. With Norwich playing that more narrow and tightly packed defensive structure in those central areas, it can be difficult to advance from those wings into the box, so I'm expecting plenty of crosses into the box instead. And whilst Norwich play a deeper back line, Coventry will still be looking to cause problems in behind in order to mix up the attack and keep the defence on their toes. Norwich are a difficult team to get in behind, so I don't think we'll see the same frequency we saw versus Millwall, but use more to prevent the attacking areas becoming clustered. Now, defensively, against Millwall, we saw some familiar issues arise, particularly with the being caught on breaks. Now, versus Norwich, if we don't plug those gaps, this isn't a team that will let those slides and will punish those mistakes, particularly with their narrow forward approach. It's something that needs shoring up. There's one or two that comes to mind, in particular that kitchen take on high up the pitch, getting us caught with minimal numbers back. And another scenario I see is Rodoni vacating space out wide to get onto the ball, our additional midfielder Torp or Eccles supporting, and on the chance it breaks, we've left ourselves wide open. And that happened a few times in the Millwall game. It's a difficult one because on one hand we've been working well on our attacks and you don't want to stop that or limit it, but equally it would be nice to feel a little bit more in control when those breaks happen. Those breaks can certainly hurt us, however, and I can see this happening all too much in the game versus Norwich, where frustration can grow moving forward, and after long periods of not making progress, discipline slips from that defensive structure in order to force a new opening, and any mistakes in those areas will be swiftly punished. Into key players. Well, for Coventry, I'm going for Esse. I mean, what a performance he had versus his old club Millwall. You know, he started to look a little bit tired towards that 55-60 minute mark, but certainly got the talent. He's off the mark with his first goal now, and he's really showing some bright sparks and particularly useful against the tightly packed defence. For Norwich, I'm going for Ali Ahmed, bringing something different to Norwich's attack. We've not seen them have that sort of prowess for a while, and it keeps defenders on their toes. So now on to predictions. Well, we're likely to see Norwich come out of the block and control the game for the first 10 to 15 minutes. Build-up play starts in deeper areas, lots of play centrally, as well as finding space through wingers, who again will work themselves into more central channels. Norwich will be looking to make Coventry pay on transitions with their fast interplay and their dominance in central channels. Coventry, however, will look to ease into the game and settle once they come back into possession. I'm expecting us to try and control the game with possession as much as possible with that solid structure. They'll be looking at a lot of wing play, seeking moments of magic to create chances. As the game develops, I'm expecting an increase in crosses and more forward commitment from deeper players, which could leave us open at the back. Now, I think this could play out quite a frustrating game, but the matchplot model is backing the boys for a 2-1 away victory. Now, this is a really tough place to visit, but following the previous two games, well, why can't we win this one? It's a really, really positive thing to go into. It could be catching Norwich at the wrong time here, but you know, the model still fancies us. You let me know what you think, and as always, thanks for watching. Cheers!